When cutaways are used, they're often there as a disguise shot if the main footage being used momentarily has a problem. For example, at a critical point there might be inadvertent camera shake, or someone walks far too closely in front of the camera, or any other type of issue like this. As we've seen, we can negate the problem if we have similar footage of the same scene from a different angle, or at the very least complementary footage that is not necessarily of the same scene, but is thematically sympathetic to the clip. Well, that's great if this is the case. Cutaways like this can rescue problematic footage. However, it's not always the case you have some similar material to use. Well, all is not lost. You can use some photographs, for example, possibly that include some textual information, and use those as the cutaway asset. But again, what can we do if we don't have a suitable photograph? Well, Premiere Pro rescues us once more in the form of having the option to create a still image, effectively a photograph, from a video and use that either as it is or after further processing in Photoshop. Let's go through the procedure to see what I mean. I'll open up the video folder in the project panel and I'll choose a video that I want to use. I could do this on the main timeline, i.e. choosing a particular video that's in use already and then subsequently choosing a particular frame, but I'll do it here in the source monitor for this example. I'll choose one of these clips at random, I'll double click it to open it in the source monitor, and I'll choose a suitable frame to use as a photograph. To be honest, any of these will do, so I'll use this one here. They're all pretty similar. Okay, so now we've got it chosen, but how do we export this one frame? Well, dependent on how your screen is set up, you might or you might not see all available buttons in the source monitor. So you might need to click on here, this plus button. This reveals the button editor, and it's here that you'll see quite a number of available buttons that you can use. Roll over them for a tooltip. Now we're concerned with this one, the one that looks like a camera. This will allow us to export a frame. Notice the shortcut. Control plus Shift plus E. Select it and then OK it. Now at this point you'd be forgiven for thinking, where's this button we've just added in? Well, again, owing to screen size here for these tutorials, we're all squashed up. Now if this is the case, you can click this reveal button to access the hidden buttons. In our case here, we have these three options. Of course, the bottom option concerns us, export frame, with its shortcut there. Now I'm not going to select it here, because I'll show you it in view too by expanding our source monitor. I'll left click and expand to the right. Therefore now we see those extra three buttons, and the final one is the export frame button. If you click it now, you'll get this export frame dialog. This by default already names the file, but you can rename it if you want to, or you can use the default. For our example I will use the default. And then choose the photographic format from the drop reveal. You can have a bitmap, DPX, GIF, JPEG, PNG, Targa or TIFF. Now I'm going to leave it at the default of JPEG. Next, either accept the default path where the resulting frame will be saved, or you can click on the Browse button to change the folder location. Now I'm going to change it to my Anglesey folder. And then finally, check in this checkbox to import into the project. What this will mean is, once we export this frame out, we will have it automatically brought back into our project, and it will show up in our project panel without us having to go through the process of importing it. Okay, so have that checked, because also this will allow for convenient round-trip editing with Photoshop in a moment. So I'll OK it, and now we see this frame has been added. At the moment it's not in the relevant bin. Yes, it's in the project panel, but it's not in my relevant bin. So I'll navigate up and left click and drag it inside my images folder, my images bin, and then I'll open up the images bin. Right, now that it's there, we're all ready now to use on the Premiere Pro timeline directly if we want to, or we can process it further in Photoshop if desired. Now I'm going to do that, so I'll right click on it to open up this context sensitive menu, and I'll choose the Edit in Adobe Photoshop option. Which means of course Photoshop will automatically open, and then once we get to this stage, just do with this image what you think is necessary to adjust the photograph. Now with this not being a Photoshop course, I'm not going to go through and instruct what I'm actually doing, but as you can see, I'm adjusting this single frame and I'm purposely making it look very different to the original frame, only so that it stands out. Ordinarily I might not do this. Anyway, once we are happy with the result, it's important to save this so that it updates inside Premiere Pro. And once we are done, flick back to Premiere Pro, Okay, so this is the frame of the video we've just processed. Therefore, to see our processed image, simply double-click on it to open it up in the source monitor. And then from this point, I suppose, you could add some text to it, or you could move it directly to the timeline to use as a cutaway as it is.